Thank you very much, Elia, for this very insightful presentation. We are going to pick up on it later during the panel discussion. Before I will introduce our next speaker, I would like to ask my panelists to assemble in this corner to be wired up for the panel discussion. So moving on to our second presentation, where Maria Georgiou, Director Head of PwC's Academy, will shine a spotlight on talent acquisition and leadership development in the maritime industry. Maria, the stage is yours.
Let me get grips with the technology first. So, good morning. Thank you for this great opportunity. I've seen some familiar faces and met some new people, so wishing a very productive conference. So, I'm Maria Georgiou. I'm heading PwC's Academy in Cyprus. I'm coming from a background of HR consulting, so I will be sharing with you my experience and insights, both from working with shipping companies, but also working with diverse industries as well. So, let me start by saying what I really admire about your industry. And I know that I grew up started my professional career in the late 90s. I come from Limassol, so I have experienced this booming of all these new shipping companies being established in Limassol especially. And they brought all these new systems and practices and welfare benefits to their people. So really fascinated by these companies, and really admire you for being, pioneers in many respects in terms of the technology and the HR practices that you have been giving. Perfect, thank you. So also I admire that you are a truly global and diverse industry. Before, diversity, inclusion, and globalization was in our vocabulary. So really living this globalization and this culturally diverse environment. And also, I admire your legacy in technical training, your discipline, the comprehensiveness of this training in such a highly regulated environment. So really happy to every opportunity to be working with companies in your industry. So let me share, challenges, and I will not stay here long because, the previous speakers have already talked about this. You live it every day, so I will just touch upon the fact that the industry is facing both some common challenges that others are facing, but also some unique and very intense challenges that are unique in your industry as well. So things around vulnerability of the value chain, things around, digitalization, also the environmental pressure for net zero contributions. And of course, the war for talent, which is what I'm going to be concentrating more on my presentation. So starting with I would like to share some statistics to set the scene. And this is a slide from our Hopes and Fears survey in PwC. It's a global survey including more than 50,000 people in 46 countries. And this comes from the 2022 survey. Actually, the 2023 survey has just been published yesterday, so I will be sharing some of those insights, but I wasn't able to put them into a slide. So what it says is that what matters to people, first of all, is to be compensated fairly. And the 2023 survey is actually making this point even more intense, because since last year, cost of living challenges have become harder, and you can even see a lot of people already started to have financial hardship, especially in the younger population of our employees or the more unskilled population of our of our workforce. So it is very important to make sure that we do compensate our people fairly and give them a decent lifestyle. And of course, then it's all about, things that matter most is the meaning, the autonomy, the control, the flexibility that we give them. So how can you do that in an environment and in an industry that some of these constraints might be holding you back from really putting practices that fully embrace control, flexibility? You are at the end of the day a 24/7 industry and always on industry. So how can you combine that with the well-being and the flexibility that your people are asking for? Another slide is also the Generation Z, and we don't realize, but actually in a couple of years, Generation Z will be comprising 30% of the workforce. So it's really important to take note of what matters to them. And it's actually very similar things. It's about the compensation and also the transparency around that. How is that, how am I fairly treated? How am I compensated versus the market, versus other people? And of course, same theme, the flexibility, the well-being, and also the social responsibility. And last but not least, the purpose and the meaning in what we're doing. You are living in an industry that has such a long history, and purpose and meaning is very much part of your DNA, but it's about how are people, experiencing that on a day-to-day. How do even younger people wanting to enter the industry or being young in this industry, understand this vision and this purpose on day-to-day and understand how their work is impacting that purpose. So these are things and questions that we all need to be thinking about. And some of the things that I'm going to be sharing are some of my thoughts and some insights, but also I'm going to be leaving you with some questions because best practices are there to give us some, food for thought. It's not about applying them and expecting that they will work the same as they work in a different organization. So, last slide on setting the scene, and that's around diversity and inclusion. And I'm so happy that a lot of the themes that I'm sharing today are very much shared with the rest of the speakers before me, and I'm sure a lot of them after me. So these are some statistics in the shipping industry. Some of them demonstrate that you are a very diverse, cultural diverse industry, with 3 languages in each ship, over, up to 30 nationalities in one ship. I think that's very unique in the industry. And at the same time, some statistics on gender balance are a clear call for action. So I'm also happy that I have been hearing a lot around gender diversity and empowering in these in the speeches of our previous speakers. And of course, another thing that was mentioned is how do you manage, and that relates to inclusion. How do you manage this isolation in the ship? How do you manage to have people feeling included, especially if they are secluded in a ship with other people that might be of different backgrounds, different nationalities, speaking different languages? So it's up to, a lot of the times, the burden is on the HR to come and fix things or find solutions. But it's not only that, it's about, creating a partnership within the organization to come up with ideas that support both the organization, the leadership, and the people of the organization. So here are some of my insights and ideas. And again, some caution that it's more about the questions that we raise for you rather than, being solutions that you can easily implement. how do you make this an attractive place, industry? And first of all, you need to realize, and I think you are realizing, that you are all sailing on the same seas. So, making this industry attractive as an industry is the first step before you attract people in your own organization. And you've done a lot in that respect. I'm also following a lot of developments recently to advance the education in the shipping industry. And this is, again, a very big tool in your hands to be able to attract people to start early studying in the industry and then getting them excited to come to work in any of your organizations. So it's important to have a visible employer brand. And I think the young people nowadays will not go to websites to see who the company is and what is the purpose. They will be seeing what's happening in LinkedIn, what's happening in all these social media. So making sure that you are present in terms of what we are doing, our social responsibility activities, the stories of our people, these are things that make you visible as an employer. And of course, it's about inviting people to come to your home, because people want to experience what it is like to work in a shipping industry, what it's like to work in this industry. So they would like to come and see you in action. So you can engage with short internships, you can invite people on open days, and people would like to speak with people that are already there. And it's not just to hear from the HR person or from the CEO or from the head of operations. It's more about, talking and listening to the people that we'll be working with. Their team leader, the young person that has been with the company 3-4 years, have advanced, and they can relate to. So having this, extroversion in terms of inviting people in to understand what it means is one of the things that you can explore more in how to attract people in the industry and in your organization. And of course, they are interested to know about flexibility, well-being, and social responsibility. So make sure that they're fully aware of what you're doing in this space. So a lot has been said about inclusion, diversity, and the workforce, but it's all about the people, the team leaders that are managing in the industry. So a lot of focus needs to be given on leadership development. And I'm sure that you all have or pass your people through leadership development programs, either here or abroad or, with acclaimed universities but it's all about giving them the tools and cultivating that culture and mindset of really, truly caring and leading their teams and their people. So it is about making sure that you have your leadership development and you give it that attention that you give to the technical training. It's about being practical, relevant, and of course, licensed to operate. You cannot have a person leading a small team or a big team without making sure that they have the basic leadership capabilities and the basic awareness of what it means to lead people, especially if these people are in a ship, isolated in the middle of an ocean. So it's also about leveraging asynchronous learning. And it was very interesting that we had a request from a company saying, I have these people on board for 6 months. How can I make sure that they utilize their time, learning new skills? So we developed this series of e-learnings that people could follow over the course of a few months, making sure that they are fully skilled, making sure that they have the opportunity to practice while on ship, and then when they come back back home, they are fully skilled, they're fully educated, and they don't need to spend that extra time with their families and their colleagues back on shore. And also it's about creating that learning culture, especially in a ship, that lots of things are happening. And how do you make sure that you have practices that the captains, the superintendents, everybody on the boat or also in the offices has a mission to learn and to teach the new people while they're working, not in the classroom, but while they're working. Explaining, give them the opportunity to experiment, giving them the opportunity to share their own ideas as well. And I truly believe that leadership is all about leading the team, leading, the small unit that you are responsible for. So focusing leadership development around how do our leaders are managing their teams? How do they create psychological safety? How do they create an inclusive environment so people feel like they belong, they feel like they can share their concerns, they feel like they can share their ideas and their opinions without being judged, without being penalized, even making mistakes without being penalized. And it's all in the heart of a smaller team, the people that are working with a common mission. So make your team leaders true captains of their ship. Give them, the accountability, the tools, the support, and that they can operate in that manner. And they can give their people that safety that they need to really excel and to be their best. And also make sure that your team leaders are very much comfortable with managing change and transformation. We are seeing so much transformation happening, and it's really key to make sure that our people are very comfortable in that. So I just want to make sure that I leave you with some questions apart from just some insights as well. So for me, it's important to have a North Star, to know where you want to go. And then to make sure that you follow and trust your compass, which is actually the values and the purpose of the organization. At the same time, you need to be aware that you need to navigate through paradoxes. So what are paradoxes? Paradoxes are actually two themes that are quite opposite, but they need to work in unison to work. And the most common paradox that we are all experiencing every day is our breathing. You need to breathe in, and we need to breathe out to be alive. And these are two exact opposite actions. So I'm sure that you are all facing these kind of paradoxes into your everyday lives and work. It's about well-being in a 24/7 industry. It's about being global, but also understanding the local needs of your organization. It's about having this huge legacy and history as an industry, and at the same time being pioneers and engaging in new innovation. And actually, I've been going through a lot of your websites as a preparation, and operational excellence and innovation were key in everyone. But how can you achieve that without the psychological safety and the safe place to experiment? So have a think about that, because it is really important to have that environment, and at the same time, combining it with the regulatory requirements that you are faced. And of course, as last is, how do we drive technology advancements and still maintaining this people-centric approach? And the survey that was published yesterday says that, most of the people, a majority of people, are not afraid of AI, are actually inviting new technologies, because it will make their life easier. So it's all about engaging our people in this technological advancement rather than having to push these new technological advancements to them and make them feel more vulnerable, because the most vulnerable workforce, and you can think about how much of that is a percentage in your own organization are the people that are less skilled. Are people with long careers or even medium careers in organizations that they're not specialists. So they need to make sure that we get these people on board, we excite them, and we invite them to be part of this technological innovation and advancements. So I know that I left you with more questions than answers, but it's about thinking what is important for you, for your organization. And it's about exploring these paradoxes a little bit more and finding ways of getting the best of both worlds, of innovation and legacy, of technology and people. So it's up to you to shape the future. So I leave you with this question and very happy to explore a little bit more in our panel as well. Thank you.